My husband beat me for 3 hours straight. By the time he pushed me down the stairs from the second floor, my body had already given up. I remember tumbling, hitting the wall, then the sound, sharp, hollow, before everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed. 2 days had passed. My ribs felt like they were on fire. My face was so swollen I could barely see, and my chest hurt every time I breathed. That's when the nurse quietly told me the truth. My husband had disappeared, and so had my neighbor. Hello, my dear ones. My name is Dorothy, though many people now call me Grandma. I'm 73 years old, and I've lived a long life, but the story I'm about to tell shaped every single year that came after. I kept it locked inside my heart for decades, like a splinter you're afraid to pull out, because you know the pain will return. I was born in 1951 in a small coal town in Kentucky. My father worked underground, coming home each evening covered in black dust, his lungs slowly paying the price for putting food on our table. My mother washed laundry for neighbors and baked bread that filled our tiny house with warmth. We didn't have much, but we had love, real love. My father adored my mother. Even after exhausting days in the mines, he treated her like she was precious. He once told me, "Dorothy, a man who loves you will never need to frighten you to feel strong." I carried those words with me into adulthood, believing that love was gentle, respectful, and safe. I studied hard, became a teacher at 19, and felt proud to stand in front of my own classroom. That's when Gerald entered my life. He came to enroll his nephew at the school, tall, clean-cut, polite, and charming in a quiet way. He complimented my teaching, admired my education, and spoke to me as if I mattered. He started waiting after school, always smiling, always respectful. He said he dreamed of building a good life for his future wife. I was young, inexperienced, and raised to believe that a man who spoke softly must also have a kind heart. My mother warned me to be careful. My father told me to take my time. But Gerald never rushed me. He never crossed boundaries. He played the role perfectly. When he proposed, everyone said I was lucky. Our wedding was small and simple. My dress was sewn by my mother's hands. As I walked down the aisle, I truly believed I was stepping into the same kind of marriage my parents had shared. A safe one. A loving one. The first cracks didn't come loudly. They came quietly. Small comments, subtle control, expectations disguised as concern. I told myself marriage required patience. Then I became pregnant for the first time. I lost the baby. Something changed in Gerald after that. His sympathy faded. His words sharpened. He began blaming my body, my weakness, my failure. I tried harder. I stayed quieter. I believed if I loved better, things would return to how they were. I didn't know then that I was already trapped. And I had no idea how dark my life was about to become. I thought losing my baby was the worst pain a woman could endure. But the man I married was only getting started. After I lost the baby, our house stopped feeling like a home. It was still the same small rented place near the school, with curtains I had sewn myself and a kitchen table bought secondhand. But something invisible had changed. The air felt heavy. Every sound felt dangerous. I learned to read Gerald's footsteps the way sailors read storms. At first, his anger came in words. Sharp ones. "You're careless. You don't pay attention." Any normal woman could carry a child. I swallowed every sentence like medicine that burned my throat. I told myself grief made people cruel. I told myself he didn't mean it. I told myself marriage meant staying, even when it hurt. Then control crept in. He didn't like how I dressed for school anymore. He questioned why I needed lipstick just to teach children. He wanted to know every name I mentioned from work. If I came home 5 minutes late, he demanded explanations. If I laughed, he accused me of disrespect. I began shrinking, talking less, smiling less, moving quietly through my own house, afraid of waking something ugly inside him. I lived as if I were walking on broken glass, trying not to bleed. When I became pregnant again, hope returned like a fragile flame. Gerald smiled more. He touched my belly. He promised this time would be different. I followed every doctor's instruction, rested whenever I could, prayed every night. I lost that baby too. This time, he didn't even pretend to comfort me. In the car leaving the hospital, he stared straight ahead and said, "There's something wrong with you. Women don't lose children like this." I felt something snap inside my chest. I answered back. Just once. I told him his anger wasn't helping, that his words were killing me slowly. That was when he slapped me for the first time. The sound echoed louder than the pain. My head hit the wall, and for a moment I couldn't understand what had happened. I tasted blood. He stood over me and said, "Never talk to me like that again. I'm your husband." That night, I cried silently in the bathroom with the faucet running so he wouldn't hear me. I thought about my parents' house just a few streets away. I thought about packing a bag, but shame held me still. In those days, a woman who left her marriage carried a label she could never wash off. So I stayed. The 3rd year of our marriage destroyed whatever was left. Gerald lost his job. Drinking replaced working. Bottles appeared where plans used to be. His temper grew faster than his beard. Words turned into shoves. Shoves turned into blows. I learned how to cover bruises with makeup and excuses. I fell. I bumped into the door. I'm just clumsy. People pretended to believe me because it was easier than the truth. Around that time, the neighbor became friendly. Her name was Marcia. She brought cookies, asked questions, listened when I cried in the yard. She told me I deserved better. She told me I wasn't crazy. What I didn't know was that while I was teaching children during the day, my husband was learning how to smile again, with her. Perfume appeared on his clothes. He stayed out longer. He accused me of jealousy when I asked questions. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. But I wasn't ready to face another betrayal. I still believed things couldn't get worse. I was wrong. I thought I had already seen the worst of my marriage. Until the day I came home early and heard laughter coming from my bedroom. It was a rainy Friday when everything finally collapsed. The school dismissed students early because water was dripping through the classroom ceiling. I remember walking home with my coat pulled tight around me, thinking only about making tea and resting my aching body. When I unlocked the front door, the house felt strangely alive. Then I heard it. A woman's laughter. It came from the bedroom. My heart didn't race. It stopped. Every sound around me faded until all I could hear was that laughter echoing through the hallway. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I stood there, frozen, already knowing the truth before I ever saw it. I walked into the kitchen and sat at the table. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I waited. When the bedroom door finally opened, Gerald walked out as if nothing were wrong. He was buttoning his shirt, whistling softly. When he saw me sitting there, his face changed, not with guilt, but with annoyance. "What are you doing home so early?" he asked. "They sent us home," I said quietly. "Then?" He looked at the clock, then back at me. In that moment, he knew I knew. "I saw you," I said, "with Marcia, in our bed." I expected denial, excuses, anger. Instead, he laughed. "So," he said, "what are you going to do about it?" I stood up, my legs shaking beneath me. "I'm leaving, Gerald. It's over." That was when the man I had lived with for years vanished completely. His face hardened. His eyes went dark. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "You belong to me." I tried to walk past him. He blocked my path. I tried again. He pushed me so hard I fell back into the chair. The shock hurt more than the fall. "I'm not your property," I said. "This marriage is over." The first slap came fast. My head snapped to the side. The second followed before I could react. Then a punch to my stomach knocked the air out of me. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. He grabbed my hair and dragged me across the kitchen floor, shouting words meant to crush whatever was left of me. He kicked me, hit me, told me I was worthless, told me no one would want me, told me I couldn't even give him a child. At some point, I stopped feeling pain. My body went numb, like it was trying to protect my mind from breaking completely. When he finally stopped, I was lying on the floor, unable to move. He stood over me, breathing heavily. "If you ever try to leave again," he said, "I'll kill you." Then he walked out. I don't know how long I lay there. Minutes. Hours. Every breath felt like knives in my ribs. But one thought kept repeating in my mind. If I stay, I will die. I dragged myself to the phone and called my sister. I could barely speak. She arrived with her husband and took one look at me before lifting me into their car. I didn't go to the hospital that night. I was too afraid he would find me there. My sister cleaned my wounds, held my shaking hands, and asked the question I could no longer avoid. "How long has this been happening?" That night, I told the truth for the first time. The next morning, they took me to the police. I pressed charges. 3 days later, Gerald disappeared. And so did Marcia. At first, everyone said they had run away together. But deep inside, a cold fear settled in my stomach. Because I knew what Gerald was capable of. They said my husband and the neighbor had escaped together. But weeks later, the police would uncover a secret buried in the ground that would haunt me forever. For days, nothing happened. Gerald didn't return. Marcia didn't appear. The house remained silent, like it was holding its breath. Some neighbors whispered that they had run away together. Others said it was about time I was free of him. I didn't correct anyone. I was too busy trying to survive my own body. My sister insisted I get medical help. At the hospital, doctors counted injuries like they were reading a list. Broken ribs, stitches above my eye, internal bruising. One doctor looked at me for a long moment and said quietly, "If you had stayed, you wouldn't be alive." 3 days later, the police told me Gerald was officially missing. A week passed. Then another. Just when my bruises began to fade from purple to yellow, the knock came at my sister's door. 2 officers stood outside. Their faces were serious, tight in a way that made my stomach drop. They had found something. Marcia owned a small piece of land on the edge of town. Few people knew about it. A neighbor had complained about a strange smell. When officers went to investigate, they found disturbed soil behind the house. They asked me to come identify items. I didn't see her body at first. I saw her shoe, then a piece of fabric. Then I understood why the officers avoided my eyes. Marcia had been beaten. Badly. Just like me. But she didn't survive it. They told me Gerald had tried to hide what he'd done, using cement and tools he'd taken from his job weeks earlier. When police arrived to arrest him, he panicked. He ran. There was a confrontation. It ended with him dead. In a single moment, the man who terrorized my life vanished from the world forever. I thought I would feel relief. I didn't. I felt hollow. The newspapers moved faster than grief ever could. Headlines splashed across town. My name appeared everywhere, attached forever to words like murder, violence, crime of passion. Reporters camped outside my parents' house. Strangers stared at me in grocery stores. I became that woman. The school called me in for a meeting. Parents were uncomfortable. They didn't want the murderer's wife teaching their children. It didn't matter that I was the victim. Fear doesn't care about truth. I lost my job, my reputation, my place in the town I'd lived in my entire life. At night, I replayed everything. Every warning I ignored. Every moment I stayed silent. I blamed myself for Marcia's death, even though everyone told me it wasn't my fault. If I had left sooner, I thought, she might still be alive. My father sat beside me one evening, his voice steady but broken. "This town will never let you breathe again," he said. "And you deserve air." That was when he made the decision for both of us. We would leave. We packed what little I still owned into 2 suitcases. I left behind my classroom, my students, my old life. On the morning we boarded the bus, I didn't look back. I was 24 years old, widowed, unemployed, and carrying more trauma than I knew how to name. As the road stretched ahead, something unfamiliar stirred inside me. Not hope, but survival. I didn't know where life was taking me. I only knew one thing for certain. I was still alive. And somehow, that had to mean something. I thought escaping my past was the end of my story, but years later, a knock on my door would bring back Gerald's blood in a way I never imagined. I rebuilt my life slowly, like someone learning to walk after years of crawling. We moved to Louisville, where no one knew my name or my past. I found work tutoring children in the evenings and cleaning classrooms during the day. It wasn't the career I once dreamed of, but it kept my mind busy and my hands steady. At night, exhaustion helped me sleep without nightmares. Time passed. The bruises faded. The whispers stopped. But memories don't follow rules the way wounds do. Some nights, I woke up gasping, convinced I could hear Gerald's footsteps behind me. Other nights, guilt wrapped itself around my chest, reminding me of Marcia. I often wondered if surviving made me selfish. It was during one of those quiet, ordinary years that the past found me again. A woman named Nancy appeared at my door one afternoon. She introduced herself carefully, like someone handling fragile glass. She was Gerald's sister. The moment I heard her last name, my heart dropped. "I wouldn't be here if I had any other choice," she said. "But there's something you need to know." She told me Marcia had been pregnant. The child had survived. A boy. 4 years old. Nancy's hands shook as she spoke. She was ill, she said. Doctors had given her months, maybe less. The boy's grandparents were gone. There was no one left who wanted to take responsibility for him. "He's Gerald's," she said quietly. "But Marcia named you as the only person she trusted." The room spun. I couldn't breathe. All I could see was Gerald's face, his anger, his violence, his blood. I imagined that cruelty living inside an innocent child, waiting to emerge. "I can't," I whispered. "I'm not strong enough." Nancy nodded, tears running down her cheeks. "I understand. I had to try." After she left, I sat on the floor for hours, staring at nothing. I wanted to forget the conversation ever happened. I wanted to protect the fragile peace I had built. But sleep didn't come that night. Instead, memories returned, not of Gerald, but of myself as a child. Afraid. Small. Powerless. I remembered how much one kind adult could change everything. By morning, my decision was made. I called Nancy. The first time I saw the boy, he clung to her leg, hiding his face. He was thin. Quiet. His eyes were watchful in a way no child's eyes should be. When he finally looked at me, I saw fear, not violence. Something inside me softened. I didn't see Gerald. I saw a child who had already lost everything. I named him Lucas. The paperwork was long. The questions were painful. People asked why I would take in the child of a man who nearly killed me. I never had a simple answer. All I knew was this. Hate had already taken enough from me. I refused to let it take my future too. Raising Lucas wasn't easy. He had nightmares. He was afraid of raised voices. But love, real love, works quietly and patiently. Day by day he learned he was safe. And so did I. For the first time in my life, my home felt peaceful. I believed the worst was behind us. I believed the past had finally loosened its grip. I was wrong, because one question, asked years later, would shake everything I thought I had healed. When Lucas turned 16, he asked me something that made my heart stop, and forced me to confront the truth I'd hidden for years. Lucas was 16 when the past finally caught up with us. I came home one afternoon to find him sitting at the dining table, papers spread out in front of him. Newspaper clippings, old court records, photocopies yellowed with age. My chest tightened before he even spoke. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. I sat down slowly, my hands trembling. I had always known this day would come. I just didn't know when, or how much it would hurt. "They did a project at school," he continued. "Family history. I searched my name. And then, I found everything." He didn't look angry. That frightened me more than shouting ever could. I took a deep breath and told him the truth. Not the softened version. Not the protective lies. Everything. The marriage. The violence. The fear. His parents. The night everything ended. When I finished, the room was silent. Finally, he asked the question I had dreaded for years. Am I like him? My heart broke open. I reached across the table and took his hands. "No," I said firmly. "You are not your father's blood. You are your choices. And every choice you've ever made has been kind." Tears ran down his face. What if it's inside me and I don't know it? I shook my head. Violence is learned, Lucas. Love is chosen. And you chose love every day. That night, he hugged me the way a child hugs their only safe place. And in that moment, I knew I had done one thing right in my life, breaking the cycle. Lucas grew into a gentle man. He studied architecture, believing buildings should feel safe, not intimidating. He never raised his voice, never drank, never let anger control him. Watching him become who he was healed something inside me that years of therapy never could. I met Anthony not long after Lucas left for college. He was quiet, steady, and patient. He never demanded explanations for my scars, physical or emotional. He simply accepted them as part of loving me. For the first time, love didn't feel like fear. Years passed. Life softened. I became a grandmother. Laughter filled my home again. Then the doctor gave me another kind of news. Cancer. The room felt smaller as he spoke, but strangely, I wasn't afraid. I had faced monsters before. I knew how to survive. Treatment was hard. Some days I wanted to give up. But Lucas sat beside my bed, holding my hand, reminding me of everything we had overcome. I survived. And now, at 73, I tell this story not because it's easy, but because silence protects abusers, not victims. Because somewhere, a woman is listening and wondering if leaving is worth the risk. It is. You are not weak for staying, but you are powerful for choosing to leave. And it is never too late to begin again. I lived a lifetime after my worst day. So can you.